बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अज़ीज़ तलबा व तालिबात, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। जैसा कि आप सब जानते हैं कि हम पैराडाइम्स का चैप्टर पढ़ रहे थे और मैंने आपको बताया था कि पैराडाइम इज़ सॉर्ट ऑफ पैटर्न और मॉडल या नमूना, और इसको इन सिंपलर वर्ड्स आई सेड कि इट इज़ द वे ऑफ डूइंग थिंग्स, वे ऑफ लिविंग. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई टोल्ड यू कि in past we used to do programming in structured language. Then came the concept of object oriented programming, and similarly in the past, when we did not have the internet or networks, there were the personal computers, right? And those were the standalone PCs. The pattern of working in that era, it was working on the standalone PCs. Then came the concept of networks, then internet or internetworks. So in this manner we talk about the paradigms, the way of doing things, the way of computing, right? So we have seen few paradigms, and today we are going to start with another paradigm. First of all, I'll again start with the concerns. In fact, what we want while we are developing an interactive system. So the first thing is, how can an interactive system be developed to ensure its usability? That means if we make a software that is interactive, how will we make sure that it will be usable? The people would like to use it. It will be easy to use. So this is our concern, right? And how can the usability of an interactive system be demonstrated or measured? So this is our main concern. And we can say that paradigms for usability are examples of successful interactive techniques. Successful interactive systems are commonly believed to enhance usability and serve as a paradigm for the development of future products. Now you know that nowadays we have got different toolkits, right? Visual Studio and Java toolkit and other toolkits, in which in fact those toolkits are nowadays very common, because we can build better system with the help of those toolkits, right? So in fact the paradigm for usability is in fact a system that helps us to do something in a better way. And then principles for usability, theoretically driven from psychological, computational and sociological knowledge. In fact, whenever we want to make a usable software that people want to use, they feel like that the software is that good that they must use it. So we think on the basis of the psychological concepts, how human think, how they decide, what kind of doing things, the manner they do the things they like to work with. Similarly, the computational way, the manner in which they want to compute. And then the sociological means the society works, right? So maybe few things that are very common in some other society, maybe those will not be applicable in our society or in some other society, right? So it depends upon different things. So whenever we try to make a software and we wish to have it as a usable software, we must think about the psychological part, then the computational part, and then the sociological part. So if we have got the knowledge about all these things, then we can make the better systems, and we can go for the paradigm shift. That is, people are working in a paradigm and then they move from one paradigm to the other paradigm, one pattern or one way of doing things to the other pattern or other way of doing things, just because they feel like that it is easier to use that thing. I can give you a very simple example. In the past, we used to use the personal computers, right? We used to have a big monitor, a keyboard, a mouse and everything, and a system unit. But nowadays we are doing everything in a mobile phone, right? Or on a tab. So in fact we have shifted the way of working from a PC to a handheld device, or maybe a palm device, or maybe a tablet or tab. So we have changed our way of doing things. So now let's go to another paradigm, that is the programming toolkits. As I told you earlier, in fact, develop the set of tools needed to build more complex interactive systems. So as I told you, we have got the toolkits, right? Visual Studio. You have learned the C concept and you have used that. So it is easy for me to make you understand that you have a toolkit in which you have got different libraries, different ready-made functions. So you need not to write from the scratch. So you call those functions, you use those libraries. In some toolkits we have APIs. So in fact, normally these are the set of tools. The programming toolkits are the set of tools that can be used to develop other systems. So by using that toolkit, you make the software that can work for some specific task. Similarly, building component of a computer system to rebuild a more complex system. So now, in fact, the toolkit is a building component, right? So with the help of those components, we can build another new system. So by using the Java toolkit, the Visual Studio, Android Studio, we can make the relevant applications, and those applications can be complex, but these toolkits, these ready-made things, make it easier for us to develop those. So the right programming toolkit provides building blocks to producing complex interactive system. One thing is very important. If I want to make an mobile application, it would be better not to use the Visual Studio, but better to go for the Android toolkit, right? So it is in fact very obvious. We have different toolkits for different kind of software. So the kind of software you want to build, maybe you are going to use a PHP platform for the websites, right? ASP. And nowadays you can use the Angular and the other tools that help you to make the different websites, right? So similarly, if I want to make a low level program, then I'll better use the Visual Studio, C language, C++. So in fact, we have to choose the perfect language, the perfect toolkit that will help us in that particular area. So the right toolkit to solve a problem is important. Whenever you choose a language, do not choose it because your friend is using it for his or her project. Maybe the nature of project is different. You're making a mobile app and he or she is making a website, for example. So you should better learn about different toolkits, tools, languages, and then you should select for that particular language or toolkit for your own project. Then we have another concept of multimodality. In fact, when we talk about the mode, so a mode is a human communication channel. For example, I can see, I can touch, I can listen, I can smell. So all the channels a human has, in fact, are the modes, right? So in fact, if I make a system and in that system I can read something, I can hear something, so that system would be known as multimodal system, a system that allows me to use my different channels, like I can read, like I can listen to that essay, right? So there are different concepts. So now check, a multimodal interactive system relies on the use of multiple human communication channels. So nowadays we can touch. So normally we have the touch cell phones, right? We have the touch tabs, right? So instead of using the buttons or the mouse or anything, we just touch and get the job done. And similarly, we have the sight, we can see the things, we can hear the things. So in fact, that is another paradigm in which we are right now, that we are using the multiple modes of human, and we can also input the data by speaking. Either I can type a text or I can speak that thing, and it can be typed by the computer, right? So there are so many things or software that help us for the multimodal systems. Next one is the computer supported cooperative work. The name seems a very big thing, but it is nothing. It is just the computer networks. There is the computers connected to each other and helping each other. So when we have a computer network, we can share the resources, right? For example, we have printers, scanners, and other devices, and we can connect them through a network, and then we can share those resources. Then comes the concept of client-server architecture application. So in that case, on a server, there is a server part of software, and on the user side, there is the client side of software. And when we use that thing, in fact, we are using a client-server architecture in a network environment. For example, if we are using some, say, shopping mall application, then the browser that opens the page for us is the client side, from where we can get the things in our cart, we can select the things, we can remove the things, and then on the other side there is some admin who is looking after the things. So we can use, with the help of network, in another way, like we used to do in the past in a standalone environment, right? So now we have networks, wireless networks, and we are working in a different manner, right? We are sharing the data, we are sharing the disk space, and now on the basis of this, we have got the cloud computing, right? So in fact, this is the basic. The network is the base of the modern concepts. Then comes the World Wide Web. So in fact, when we got the internetworks, that is the communication between the networks, so we got the concept of internet. And in fact, on the internet we have the web, right? So we can get the data from different locations, from different servers, from different computers. And normally when we use the internet, we are using a protocol, a set of rules that is known as TCP/IP, Transfer Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. So this is used for the web, and normally web is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So in fact, whenever we are using the web, we will have to use some protocol that deals with the hypertext, right? So hypertext is HTML, you already have studied that. URLs are normally uniform resource locators, and somewhere it is written as the universal resource locator. So your every page, every portal, every site has some specific address, right? www.iiu.edu.pk. So that with the help of which we can recognize, we can recall the address of that particular page, portal, or website, right? And browsers are used in which these pages are open. The internet material is open, right? So this is about the World Wide Web. You all are aware of it, but as it is part of the course, so I'm just discussing this. Then comes the agent-based interface. Now check, this is something, or it seems something new for you. What is an agent? In fact, agent is somebody who performs some task on my behalf. For example, if I want to get a house, right, on rent, so I will ask some real estate agent to look a home for me with 3 bedrooms, a drawing room, a dining, a kitchen, and a small lounge. So I will tell my requirements to the agent, and on my behalf he will try to find out the home for rent with these specifications. So this is agent. So now comes the question, why need it? In fact, I cannot move around in the whole sector or mohalla or whole city to find out the home for me, right? So that agent is specialized in that task, and he has the knowledge, and he searches more and more for the related homes. So normally he works on my behalf. Now let's have an example in computer science. For example, I want to get the news about sports, right? And now what I want to get the news from different websites, different newspapers. So it is very hard for me if I go to every news channel, every newspaper, every website. It is not possible. So what will I do? I will write an agent. I will write a software that would be known as agent. Let me give you an example of a crawler. A crawler is a software that crawls on the web, that goes to site, and then it gets the data that is related to me. For example, data related to sports. So wherever that crawler finds the data, now crawler is my agent. I tell the crawler, get the data about the sports, or get the data about Pakistan, for example. So that software will run, and it will start getting the data that is related to the sports or that is related to the Pakistan, and it will start fetching back the URLs depending upon what requirement I have given, or the data. And then we can pool that data, and then we can discard the data that is not needed, and we can keep the data that is required. So in fact, that is another paradigm, that on the behalf of a user, the agent, the software works itself. It performs tasks by itself, right? And next one is the ubiquitous computing. In fact, when we were using the computer 25 years back, it was like we were feeling like, yes, we have the computer and we are using it. But now when in class I ask you, who brought your computer today? Who brought the computer? So most of the class never raise their hands because they feel like we have not brought our laptop. So they never raise their hands. But when I ask, who brought the cell phone today? Then everybody raises his or her hands. And then I tell you, in fact, now this is another paradigm, another pattern of doing things, another manner of doing things. So now your cell phone is much better than a computer that I was using 25 years ago. So in fact, you all have computer in your pockets in the form of a cell or cell phone, but you people never recognize. And this is the ubiquitous computing. It is not a conventional computer. Rather, computer is brought in all aspects of life. So for example, I ask you, the security system of a car. Yes, it is again computing. Then I talk about the microwave oven. It has got a chip that manages all the operations. Then I talk about the mobile phone, I talk about the smart watches, and you then simply say that, sir, we never realized that everything has got the computer or a microchip in it, and it is computing, it is doing something. So in fact, ubiquitous computing is cause of two things. Number one, because we got the wireless networks, and second, the things got smaller, right? In the past we had a very big computer, but now we have a palm size small cell phone, right? And we can easily use it. So we never notice that computer is everywhere, in a washing machine, maybe in our lighting system at home, in our AC. I can manage my AC from my office, then when to turn on, when to turn off. So in the geysers, everywhere you will look at it and you will say that, hey, we are just surrounded by the computers, right? So this kind of computing, this pattern, this paradigm is known as ubiquitous computing. Next one paradigm is the sensor based and context aware interaction. In fact, in this case, we do not need to go and do something. Rather, there are sensors, and sensors, when sense something, they perform the action accordingly. So there is no need of explicitly telling the computer. For example, in our streets, beside our roads, we have got different small light sensors, right? Those are hidden somewhere in a light box, in some signal box. So in fact, that sensor senses the amount of light, and when it comes to a threshold, it comes to a value that we have said that if the light is that much decreased, then all the lights in the street or on that road must turn on. So nobody is going to turn on the light, rather it does it by itself. It just senses and it does that thing. Similarly, we have seen the automatic doors beside or in front of every shopping mall. When we go there, the doors get opened by themselves. So there are sometimes cameras, sometimes the floor mat, the rubber mat that you can see. In fact, it has the sensors. Whenever it senses some weight on that mat, it opens the door. Sometimes there are cameras and they are taking the picture, and whenever there is somebody in that area, the doors get open, right? Similarly, wash basins, when we bring the hand under that, so sensors are there and they are intelligent enough to perform that task for which those have been built. So now we have seen all of the paradigms that we wanted to study, that was in our course. So now you will have to search for a web page that is software interfaces plus hall of shame, and through that you will find out that how many blunders were made by different big name organizations. So that is how we feel like that interaction became difficult due to the bad use of controls, bad use of colors, bad use of interaction style. So you can check, right? So this is something that you will have to search, and you will have to learn how these things in fact put bad image or keep the user or bring the user into a situation where he or she says, I don't want to use that software, I don't want to use this software, right? So that is why we say that usability increases when a user feels the thing he wants to do can be done by your software. So learn from these mistakes and do not let those be in your softwares. So that's all for today's lecture. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.